Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. If you're on here watching this, you are already a member of the outdoor state and you've already pledged to vote. And that is a huge step in the right direction for affecting policy and protecting our outdoor spaces. So,
Jessie Diggins, check it out.
I know it's Jessie Diggins. I'm so excited.
Hi guys.
I'm like a kid in a candy shop right now. Okay, so I want to start off by just saying thank you to North Face. They're sponsoring this episode, and I believe that there are some giveaways associated with this, so make sure you look for those. And I know there's also Jessie's book is part of the giveaways, as well as some TNF duffels. So that's always awesome. We're excited for that. I just want to introduce the two people here. Jim is easy.
Hi.
He's my partner in life and partner in the mountains, also a North Face athlete, and also an advocate for climate with Protect Our Winters. And Jessie Diggins doesn't really need much of an intro, and I'm so excited to get to know her a little bit through this conversation. She won a gold medal, which is pretty rad, in the Olympics, and is a cross-country skier, and just came out with your first book. Is that right?
First, probably only, honestly.
First book, maybe only first book, Brave Enough. So yeah, let's dive in. I guess I'm going to just start off by asking you a question I've been curious about, Jessie, and that's just how did you get started with cross-country skiing? And I'm making it two questions, really. How'd you get started in cross-country skiing? And what is like the hardest thing you've done in terms of advocacy? Because I know you've done a lot of hard things with cross-country skiing, but I want to hear your advocacy thing.
Yeah, well, it's super cool for me to get to meet the power couple of skiing in the mountains.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm having a fun fangirl moment here too. But yeah, I got started, I guess like a lot of kids, you just do it with your family. And so both my parents, they love being outdoors, and whether it was camping or hiking or canoeing or fishing, whatever it is, we were just really plugged into being outside.
Where'd you grow up?
Oh yeah, in Afton, Minnesota.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool. So, yeah, I like this.
Yeah, a lot of really good like wintertime, but also like canoe camping trips in the summer. So we really got the full experience. And so before I could even walk, my dad would put me in the backpack because they weren't going to miss a weekend of skiing. So we just went out as a family. And when I was old enough, I got my own pair of like 3-pin binding skis back when that was a thing.
Yeah.
And I just kind of took off in a lot of different sports, but skiing was kind of my first love. And I ended up coming back to it and kind of saying, wow, how far can I take this? This is so fun. I love being part of a team. I love getting to compete. I love the challenge of really pushing my body really, really hard.
Yeah.
Which you guys know.
Yeah, I know that. Different time frame kind of thing, but totally the same feeling.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think like when it comes to advocacy, I think what was most scary for me was post-Olympics. I realized, okay, like, it's the Olympics in the US gets really hyped up, which is really cool. But what you're left with is this audience and a platform. And I wanted to feel like I used it for something,
right?
Like I didn't want to just be like, yay, me, cool, bye.
And we're so stoked that you're doing that. So when you first joined the POW Alliance, I think there was a lot of us that were really proud to have you be part of it. And it's really great, sort of different voice than what we're used to.
Oh, thanks. Well, because I was nervous because, I kind of thought, well, I'm not an expert. I'm not a scientist. I don't know, I'd be scared to get into some really detailed debate with anyone about climate change. But I do know that I love being outside, and I want my kids to be able to ski someday. And I want to be able to ski the American Birkie when I'm 90 years old with my grandkids, like that's something I and passionate about protecting. And so I feel like what was really cool is that POW sort of said like, hey, we'll help you learn how to find your voice and give you those tools. And you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to care and be willing to show up and, you know, do the things that you can do. And that's going to add up if everybody does that. And so it really made me feel empowered, and it made me feel like, okay, I have something I can contribute. I can do something, you know, even if I'm not an expert, that's okay. I can still use my voice. So that was a good feeling for sure.
Awesome.
But I want to ask you guys, first of all, what is the next big adventure that you are planning? Because I'm sure you've got something in the back pocket for when we're allowed to do these things again.
Expedition COVID right now.
Yeah.
We had a couple big projects this spring that got canceled.
We were supposed to be in Alaska for a few weeks, and then again on another trip the first 3 weeks of June, and sort of more Nepal Himalaya thing again this fall. But all of that is gone.
So we're currently trying to stay sane and stay active and keep our minds engaged in training for a sport that we probably won't be able to do for quite a long time. Kind of interesting having our winter cut short, and then right as things start to open up and we get back to our normal lives a little bit, there's no more winter. So we're sort of embracing flip-flops and summer and mountain biking and rock climbing. But we plan to go back to the Himalayas when the world's ready for us to, and try to ski another really big, rad line in the Himalayas.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we're going to be watching, because I think what's actually kind of crazy about this is, for all of us, this is like this sort of reality check and example when suddenly, you know, everyone had adventures, races, huge mountains that we were planning on doing, and suddenly it's gone.
Right.
And I think that is, for me, that was a wake up of why like Protect Our Winters is so important and so needed, because this feeling of like, oh my God, like I can't go do that thing that I love is awful. I hate it. It sucks.
And what if that was,
this is like a really good example.
What if that was a permanent thing, because our climate gets to such a state that there is no winter, there's no cross country ski racing, so on and so forth. Yeah, it's been a big reality check for sure.
It's also made me feel really fortunate to have the fact that I can't go ski the things I want to ski be my problem.
Yeah.
In this time when there's so much suffering going on, I've had, you know, plenty of days where I just sort of didn't want to leave the house and didn't want to do anything, and have all this spare time and find myself incredibly ineffective. But remembering that what I'm trying to go do is self-fulfillment in the mountains helps me realize that we're lucky. We're really lucky to be who we are right now.
I think it's so important to like honor how we feel too, because, you know, it's easy to say, well, my problems aren't big problems, but also like you feel how you feel. And if you're really bummed out about, you know, big plans being canceled, like it's okay to honor those feelings too, because I think we can be hard on ourselves too sometimes that way.
One thing I've been trying to find the silver lining in all of that is, you know, we're all pro athletes, and spend, you know, for me, it's like completely my identity. I'm on the road all the time. I'm traveling to some of the most remote corners of the globe to do my sport. And really, it's been amazing just being in one place for an extended period of time, and just exploring my own backyard again, and realizing that I do live in a beautiful place, and getting to, you know, see my friends, and just take on smaller things on a day-to-day basis versus these big grandiose expeditions that sometimes take 2 months, you know, and take me away from my kids and all of that. So I really been enjoying that part of it. Is just more the simplicity of being in one place and really observing what I have in my own backyard, and appreciating that. It's been pretty
Oh,
where are you right now? You're not in Minnesota.
No, I'm actually in Stratton, Vermont.
Okay.
And you know what you were just saying was really resonating with me, because I think it makes you really realize, like, oh wow, like where I am is so cool too. Like,
Yeah.
it's so beautiful, and exploring all the things close to home. Like, last weekend I went camping with my fiance, and
Yeah.
it was like 5 miles from where we live, but we were like, wow, this is really beautiful.
Right? It's really
You know, like
cool.
I think sometimes we take it for granted.
Yeah. And definitely I feel like I'm always looking so far away and sort of, forget what's right in front of me. So yeah, that's been my like silver lining. And also, just trying to sort of rediscover or redefine that identity that I'm so associated with having to be in the big Himalayas all the time, and so on and so forth. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Else? Well, I'll ask you about your book a little bit. You just finished your first book. It's called Brave Enough, and its focus is about bravery. So in relating that to Protect Our Winners and the conversation around climate and advocacy work, do you feel like you've had to be really brave to go out and get involved with POW and
go to Washington, D.C., do that kind of stuff? Yeah.
Yeah. In some ways, yes. And in some ways, it wasn't as scary or as hard as I thought it was going to be, which is a good thing. But, and I think it, for me, it did take a little bit of courage to get up the guts to, all right, I'm going to practice my public speaking skills. Right. I'm going to head out to DC. Like, I feel like I'm totally in over my head, like it was a little bit scary, because, I felt like a fish out of water. My place is on the ski trails. What do I know about policy, but at the end of the day, when we left DC with POW, I remember looking back and going, wow, that felt so good, because we got to talk to a lot of representatives, and we got to share with them our experiences and our stories, and bringing it back to, like, I realized I didn't have to be an expert. I just had to be passionate about it and share why it matters to me and why I hope it matters to them. And some weeks later, one of the representatives actually joined the Climate Solution Caucus. So
you had an effect.
Like, all right,
I accomplished something, and which is like athletics. You have a goal and you work your butt off to accomplish that goal. And really it's not that much different, but for me, it's so much scarier. I don't know.
Well, so much of our policy in this country is based on people going to Washington, D.C. and lobbying and having a voice. And I love hearing Jeremy, the founder of POW, talk about what a difference it makes when a really pretty girl shows up with a gold medal around her neck and walks into somebody's office. He's like, these people just stop and they pay attention and they get really serious about the meeting and they listen, and you make a big difference. And man, it's awesome. And I'm psyched. There's so many of these POW people that have been to Washington, D.C. and had meetings that they thought maybe people weren't going to pay attention to, and they paid a lot of attention, because gold medal is a pretty special thing.
Well, we were just kind of flashing them around, trying to like, okay, wait, listen to what I have to say about climate. It's really important. But actually that brings me to another thought. Hilaree, you've been to DC as well, right? And
I just went last year.
Like, yeah, can you like talk about what that was like? And because I think, these visits are really effective, and it's really cool to hear, like, from your perspective, like how it went.
I think I was kind of at a point going into DC where I was very disenchanted, I guess would be a nice word to say, an easier word to say, about how I felt about just politics and our environment and everything. And honestly, I went there and we were there 3 days, and I came away like my attitude completely changed. I was very cynical. Cynical is the right word, actually. And I came away like with a ton of hope and positivity, actually. And that really surprised me.
You felt like you made a difference.
Yeah, I felt like I made a difference, and I just felt like, I had all these preconceived notions about what DC was like, what politicians were like, what senators would be like, and their aides, and all of this, having never been there before and never experienced it. And I came away like, these people really are, they really care about
human.
Yeah, they really are human. Yeah, that's totally the right word. They're really human, and they want to listen. And I have struggled for a long time speaking, having that voice and advocacy, much like you described, for the same reasons. I was, I shy from confrontation. I don't necessarily love putting myself out there in a way that people can criticize or whatever. I'm shy that way, scared. I don't know what you want to call it, but I don't know. Protect Our Winners definitely helped train me and give me information. But mostly I just found that if I just told stories about the time when I was in Baffin Island and spoke with like our local guides there, talking about polar bears and it warming so much that there was too much snow and the caribou couldn't migrate, and told actual stories of things I saw firsthand, it's really powerful. And I don't have to know the science. I don't have to be this perfect voice on science, because that's not my strength. And so that's given me a lot of more confidence, I guess. And when I was there in DC last year, I was there specifically to talk about the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, and because I've been up there a few times, and it's like one of the most special places I've ever experienced, and very unique in its scale and the wildlife that it hosts. And if you think back in 2017 with the tax bill, it was only by 3 votes that the Arctic was opened up again, essentially to be sold for extraction purposes. So that hasn't happened yet, and it's been like back and forth ever since. But so I obviously feel really strongly about keeping that place intact, and that's what I spoke about. And I was super nervous about it, but at the end of the day, it was awesome. And I met a bunch of amazing people there, and it was great.
Yeah. Well, and it's crazy because it, like, talking about it, it works. Like, it makes an impact. And I think, like, I mean, just hearing you talk about it, like, it just gets me all fired up to go, like, call my representatives and call some senators.
Yeah, and talk to your family and your friends and people in your whole social world, and we can make a difference. And I mean, the start of this is Angel Collinson making this turn with this slough coming by her, and she barely makes it before it takes her out. And that's our analogy to this, all these elections that we're trying to work in a little tiny margin on and win the race by a little.
I know. How much did you win the gold medal? How close was that race?
Yeah, so the Olympics came down to a lunge, which is crazy because it was hundredths of a second that determines the rest of your life. Really, it was life changing. And so to think that you can put so much work into this and work your entire life towards this, and it comes down to the tiniest of margins,
a fraction of a second.
It's a crazy fraction of a second. And that's sort of like it coming down to 3 votes. Like, it's coming, like, these huge life-changing decisions, life-changing events, they sometimes do happen in the margins and in these tiny little areas. And I think that, sometimes it can be really overwhelming and really scary to think about, like, oh my gosh, there's this huge impossible task. There's this impossible goal, like win the Olympics. Like, okay, but that's really, really hard. Like, it's not like you can just waltz in and win it. And I think for me, it was important to think about it not as this huge, monumental task. And, I'm really curious to hear what how you approach, climbing a mountain, because that is literally a mountain that you have to summit. But I think for me, it's a little bit about, like, if you're building a brick wall, you just lay one brick at a time. And so every day you do what you can and you put that brick down. And over time, it makes this super solid foundation and you get somewhere and it builds higher and higher. And you don't have to think about building a wall all in one day, but it's just putting down those solid bricks where you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how I kind of deal with that sort of feeling of overwhelming, like, oh, it's never going to work. This is hopeless. It's a little bit about those tiny little steps and the little actions like today that can make that difference.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
that
are one of the new things we're working on at POW is this outdoor state. And we have a whole group of people in this nation that are outdoorsy and love to go outside and fish or cross country
and aren't
ski
pro athletes. It doesn't have anything to do with
Yeah, there's 50 million of us that make up this quote unquote outdoor state, and we're the biggest state, and we have a really strong voice. And I think it's taken us a long time to realize how strong our voice can be if we actually unite in that and work towards making a difference in protecting the places we love and protecting the outdoors that we love. And it's why we're here today and why we'll be here tomorrow. And hopefully we can start ticking off some of these wins.
So I'm going to I already know the answer to this because I live with him, but I'm going to ask you about Crush It for Climate and just speak to that really quickly and how much hard work you put into it.
Yeah,
this was a brick by brick.
We did this Crush It for Climate initiative challenge where we tried to get people to go out and just crush it for climate. And I think it's going to be something we continue to do year after year. And we just try to get people to go out and do their best, whether that was walking 5 miles instead of 3 miles, or whether it was climbing 10,000 vertical feet on your skis in a day, or beating your best record of a 50K cross country race or something. And we got a lot of people involved in it, and it became something where more and more people are still today. I follow the hashtag Crush It for Climate, and there's people posting about it all the time. And it was really cool that how much awareness we raised, and we also raised a ton of money. We got a bunch of people to donate to the cause, and that's helping all the work we're doing at POW. And
and like I was just seeing the number that over 436,000 people. I mean, there were so many people that were involved in Crush It for Climate, and this was, it was amazingly effective. And it's just so cool when you see how connected we all are and how many people care about the outdoors and getting outside. And so I think it was a really cool way of showing, like, wow, like there's more of us than we realize. And so if everyone takes those little steps and does, one little thing, that actually will make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Like it's totally possible.
I mean, I think that for people watching, that it's effective in all parts of our lives. Like, you didn't win the Olympics by saying, I'm going to go build that wall. Rome didn't get built overnight. They did it brick by brick. And we didn't get involved with protect our winters by just diving in head first. We sort of put our toe in the water and waded out there, and eventually you guys made it to
dive in head first. They stuck me on a panel
it's true.
In Davos. Like, I'd been on POW's as a Riders Alliance for a couple months, and next thing I knew, I was in Davos, Switzerland, on a panel with Al Gore, and that was terrifying.
Yeah, she did great.
That was where I learned about telling stories, and those stories are really relatable. A lot of time when you hear the science on climate advocacy, it doesn't affect you directly necessarily, but when you start realizing that climate change is lifestyle change, it becomes more personal. And it kind of goes back to how you mentioned how you grew up with your parents, and how I want to raise my kids, and my whole connection with my family is through skiing, and I want to have that with my kids, and that's a lifestyle. And we're looking at seeing all of our lifestyles over generations being affected by this.
Yeah.
So
I think it is crazy that our entire lifestyle can be impacted by such small margins and such tiny little things. So I think, I know Pau has a really cool video about this. So maybe we should show that, because I think this is a cool demonstration.
Okay.
The outdoor community knows the importance of margins.
Oh, she almost just got swept.
The seemingly small efforts made at just the right moments carry enough weight to tip the scale from failure to success.
Jessie Diggins going for her first win of the season, and it's Jessie Diggins of the United States.
The margins, those places where we are made or defeated, keep us coming back for more.
More than 15,000 scientists are sounding an alarm about climate change. They call it a warning to humanity.
Environmental and political history are also made at the margins.
That is why it matters. 29 electoral college votes.
77,000 votes in key districts swung the 2016 presidential election. 3 Senate votes opened the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge to drilling. To solve the climate crisis, the world needs our community. It's the sum of our small efforts where we turn our passion into purpose and deliver climate victories where they're needed most.
It's a pretty inspiring video, especially the part where you're winning on such a tiny little margin.
We're gonna keep going back to that. Like, what was going through your head when you? Because let me preface.
Oh man!
Saying, like, our sport has serious margins to it, like life or death, and it's all about managing your margin of error to such an extent that you can make it through. But this is happening over 5 weeks, you know, on one mountain. This is happening over an extended period of time, and watching that finish with you, it's not something I've experienced in that pressure. Like, I don't know what was going through your head, knowing, I mean, you're right next. I'm just so curious, because it's a margin. Like, I totally get margins, but not to that degree.
Well, I think it's super easy to outthink yourself when you're right next to someone. You're racing neck and neck, and it's easy to be like, oh my gosh, like, she's more powerful than I am. She's probably trained better. She's probably got better fast twitch muscles. Like, it's so easy to think yourself out of it.
Does time slow down for you in that, where you actually feel like you can have a lot of thoughts even though only a second is going by?
Oh no, it doesn't slow down at all. So what I do is I don't think at all.
Yeah.
And I just focus on what I can control, because I can't control someone else, and I can't control if they're just faster than I am or they're just better than I am, but I can control my own body and my own actions. And so by really zoning in on what I am doing in this moment and bringing it back to, like, am I doing the best I can right now?
Right.
And you just keep focusing on that over and over. And it's like zoning in on, like, in this second, here's what I need to do. Like, I need to push my ski. I need to plant my poles. I need to get all the power I have down into the snow.
Yeah.
And that's how it's going to move forward. But I want to hear about, I mean, you guys climbed the 4th highest mountain in the world, and the video I watched, I think I was telling you this earlier, like, when I watched the video of you guys skiing this, like, there was no room for error. Speaking of, like, margins, it was crazy. And I just started, like, sweating, like, my hands were sweating. Like, I started getting really nervous watching this. What was that like?
It was awesome.
I mean, I like being in that spot, you know. That's why, I think that's probably why, to some extent, why we both do it, is being in that spot where you are you're forced to be present, where you're forced to push all those other thoughts away, all that white noise out of your mind and really focus and be like, I have to perform right now in this moment and stick it. And I like that pressure.
Yeah, that mindset that you get in where you sort of tune all the noise out of your world, and you're not paying attention to your emails and all the pulls and thoughts in your different directions about yourself and how you're acting, and you're just moving forward. And for us, it's, we felt like at times climbing Lhotse up really high. I remember the photographers were wearing oxygen, and they got ahead of us, and they were able to set up a shot and film us, and we were just plodding along, and here's this camera on me, and I'm climbing towards it, and I figure you're going to be watching it, so I'm channeling my inner Jessie Diggins, and I'm going as fast as I can. I'm just racing at the camera, and when you watch the video later, you're literally one step bent over.
Yeah, it's so painful.
One more
It's
step.
not very exciting.
No, it was not.
At the time, I felt like I was really getting after it and moving fast, and eventually we made it to the top. It was a dream come true, and all the conditions lined up for us, and people had said there would be no way we could ski off the summit. Hilaree had already been on
I'd climbed Lhotse before, and there was no snow, it was all rock, and so I just didn't think that I thought for sure there would be sections we'd have to take our skis off and down climb or use a rope to rappel through, but it was completely filled in, and we were able to ski from the top. So there's this these conflicting emotions of overwhelming joy and excitement with the business side of it, and that's where the brick by brick comes in, where you have to break it down. If I tried to take in everything at once, it was just too much, and I think I would have froze in the moment. So instead it was all right, let's just get off the summit block, and then we'll handle the next section, and then we'll take the tightest part of the whole couloir, which is maybe 175 centimeters wide or less. And then, and then you take the next section, and it was just piece by piece.
Yeah. Eventually we got down and we got across the Bergstrand, and we're on the glacier at the bottom of this ski descent, and we looked at each other and we were like, holy shit, did that really just happen? Did we just do that?
Yeah.
Did we pull it off? Because I'm sure to some degree, similar to your races and your career, you train and you're focused and you're doing everything you can to get there, but it's not till the results come in and the election's over that you figure out whether you won or not. And we shocked ourselves, and we were pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
I was so impressed, because that was, you took on, so many people were saying, experts in your field were saying, yeah, that's impossible. Can't do it. And then you both were like, oh, watch this. And it was so inspiring. And taking that feeling of accomplishing the impossible and plugging that into climate change, I think there's a lot of people who feel that way about advocacy work or about saving our planet. Oh my gosh, it's impossible.
Yeah. There's a helplessness feeling to it too, or that you can't possibly do enough or make a difference. And
exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess what I would ask is Jim, Hilaree, what is your advice to people who might be feeling that way? What is your brick by brick, hey, here's your little steps that you can do today, that you can do tomorrow, that are actually going to stack up and make a huge difference. And before you know it, we can take on this impossible task.
First and foremost, register to vote and go out and vote.
Yeah.
That I think is what's doable. But the crazy thing is that we're in uncharted territory right now, where showing up at the polls could actually be dangerous to your health and well-being based on this whole pandemic COVID that we've been going through. And so I guess that goes back to pull on those bravery strings and vote. Yeah, get out and vote if you have to get out and vote. If it all goes to mail-in voting, do your mail-in ballots. Figure it out.
And I think you can, everyone can start talking to their friends, their family, their social world about what they care about and about why. They can tell their story about the place that they grew up and where their parents took them when they were a kid and how they've seen change there, and they want to try to help prevent that from future generations. And I think we're all in this together, and we need to just realize that if we work together and we embrace the 50 million of us that are living in the outdoor state, we can win these battles. We can win these little tiny policy change elections and move to a bigger and bigger and larger conversations. And we're not going to do this overnight. We're not planning on in 2020 to end climate change. We're trying to make a little difference on the margin and build that over time into something where we really feel like we can look back and say, yeah, I did enough. I tried hard. Because eventually our kids and our loved ones are going to ask us, well, what did you guys do?
Yeah.
You knew about this. Don't tell me you didn't know that smoking cigarettes, like our parents, smoking cigarettes, we didn't know it was bad for us. I mean, that's crazy talk. We knew it was bad for you. So what did you do to make a difference? And I think a lot of that is just start with small conversations and make sure you recycle and do things that make you feel good. Like you said earlier, if you personally need to feel good about it. There's a lot of feel good things that you can do in your own world, and then you can call your representative. That might make you feel really good.
And it might make a huge difference.
Yeah. I mean, another thing is sort of what you actually started off this talk with is that, and something I struggle with is I want to be perfect at it. I want to be the best. And I realized that I can contribute from my own personal story, and maybe that's not perfect. Maybe I'm just working towards being better at this. And I think we all struggle with that. I drive a gas car. I try to ride my bike as much as I can, but I still drive a car. I fly in planes. Well, I haven't lately, but so I'm not perfect, but I don't want that to be a non-starter. I want to be able to still have a voice and know that.
So with that,
we're working towards it.
That animosity or that struggle that you have, Jessie, I want to know how in your world you stay focused on training. You're training for this very singular goal to beat everyone by a little tiny bit. I'm changing it a little bit, but at the same time, I think for me, I'd like to figure out how to embrace that passion to get after, because you're focusing your whole body on something to a level that exceeds what most people I've ever met in the world can do. You're making those fast twitch muscles work really well. How do you stay motivated today and in the middle of winter, in the middle of your season?
It's a great question. And sometimes I wonder, but I think a lot of it is just setting the long-term goals, but then breaking it down into shorter term goals that are all process oriented. So I there's obviously outcome goals like win the Olympics, but then there's the process goals. Like I really need to improve my skate technique. Okay, how am I going to do that? Like this month, I need to make this technique change. And you keep breaking it down further and further until it's like today, when I go out and roller ski and train, I'm going to do this technique drill for this many minutes. And that's, laying my brick for the day. And that's how I'm going to, take that step forward. And then you get to have that feeling of checking it off the list. All right, this was my process goal for today. In order to get to this ultimate goal, I did it to the best of my ability. I can look back and say, at least I tried. I did the best I could, and you can check it off. And that's sort of how I feel about climate advocacy. It's all right, make your goal for the day or the month or the year, and then be able to say, I did the best I could. I tried. And then be able to check it off, because that feels really good. And whether or not you win the outcome goal, you can at least look back and know that you actually, you can look in the mirror and say, I did everything I could.
And you got better.
And I like the person I see in the mirror now.
That's awesome.
Right. And it's almost like it's a much better way to set yourself up for success too, because if if you break it down, the smaller you break it down, the more bricks there are, and the more chance you have of checking off a brick each day or however often, and being like, all right, well, I did that. Okay, now I can move on to the next thing. And yeah, it's just, yeah, versus looking at the end goal and just taking it all in one piece is almost setting yourself up for failure. It's too much.
Exactly. So I guess I would challenge everyone watching here to figure out what their like brick is, like what they can do that breaks it down, into a really small, manageable, bite-sized task that they can accomplish and then feel really good about it. Right. So step 1, check, you registered to vote. And step 2 is making sure you follow up on that and actually do vote. And I think POW does a really good job sending out some like materials that are, they're going to follow up and help people figure out how to vote. And I think they have some really, really cool resources on their website. So,
they also give you like, what we're talking about is climate and the environment. So you register to vote, and then you want to, take some time to do your research on the different candidates running for office and see who has climate policy within their sort of toolkit, I guess. What platform are they running on?
And so many of your friends and don't know who to vote for. And if you sort of do some research on that, and you can help a lot of other people make good decisions. And one of our terms at POW is embrace our imperfect advocacy. We don't proclaim to be perfect at this. So if you can embrace that and lay some groundwork, you're going to make a difference.
One thing I've also learned with all of this is to listen. There's a lot of like sharing this information with friends, with family, etc., but also to listen to what other people have to say. And maybe they don't agree with you, but listening is really key in all of this, as much as sharing your stories and sharing your ideas. It's also listening and hearing what other people think and feel, because this is a really passionate conversation or subject for a lot of people. So
absolutely. I agree.
I think we're out of time. So I would love to go on and ask you so many more questions, but hopefully our paths will cross through the Rogers Alliance outside of this.
We'll get your book and read it. I'm psyched to check it out.
I'm pretty sure
I'm going to go watch every video of you guys ever. So
I'm pretty sure the last time I went cross-country skiing or skate skiing, I planted the pole in between my skis and did the worst face plant I've ever done. Like, you could fall so freaking hard. Nordic skiing, it's insane. I really didn't know that. I'm not really up on that. That's why I like skiing things that are really steep, because when you fall, you just kind of roll with gravity. You don't pancake on the flat. It's awful. Oh my God.
Well, if it makes you feel better, I still pancake a lot.
Do you?
So. Yeah.
I bet it's good. If you're not falling, you're not learning, right?
That's what I always
say.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in. As Jessie pointed out, please check out Protect Our Winners website, because there is a lot of information to help you know how to vote, how to register, where to vote, info on all the individuals running for different offices. I think it's organized out state by state, etc. And thanks for being a part of the Outdoor State. Thanks again to North Face for sponsoring this, and Jessie for donating your book. And just a reminder to tune in on Thursday for the last episode in the series, and you'll hear from Chloe Kim and Gretchen Bleiler on how the next generation is taking on climate change and how we can help.
More Rad Olympians.
More Rad Olympians.
Right here.
Yes.
Brought to you by Protect Our Winners.
All right. Thanks, Jessie. Have an awesome day.
Thanks. You too.
Yeah, it was great to see you. Great to hang.
Yeah, this was really, really cool.
Thanks for all the work you're doing with us.
Oh my gosh. Yep. Thanks for making it so easy to join and be part of it. That's really cool.
Awesome.
Okay.